to another interesting and insightful episode on the Mindful Living podcast. I'm your host Sana, and today's episode it's going to hit close to home for anyone who's ever said, "Don't talk to me until I have had my coffee." In fact, I have said this multiple times. Although, Steve, in India, I'm a tea lover, but sometimes I would love to have coffee, and I hate to admit, but until and unless I have had my tea or coffee, I'm not in a mood to even talk to anybody or look at anybody. So,
Right here, you fit right in with the herd. How's that?
exactly. Anyway, so listeners, moving on. Well, we are diving deep into caffeine, how it affects our minds and bodies, its addictive nature, the ups and downs of withdrawal, and most importantly, how we can reclaim control over our energy and nervous systems. And let me introduce my lovely guest to all of you, Steve Frazier. He is an author, behavioral change strategist, and the founder of Release the Coffee Cuts, which is a coaching program for people who want to quit caffeine without quitting life. And listener Steve knows firsthand how coffee can go from a productivity booster to a daily crutch. After decades as a successful entrepreneur and just as many cups of coffee, he realized caffeine wasn't energizing him, it was exhausting him. And that realization changed everything. And Steve's work is practical, science backed, full of refreshing honesty, listeners. He's not here to cancel coffee, he's here to give us real, credible information and freedom of choice. Whether you are a latte lover, energy drink enthusiast, or if you remember, if you recollect our pandemic times, we were all gushing over Dalgona coffee and stuff like that. Or if you're someone curious about a caffeine-free life, this conversation will give you tools to rethink your relationship with the cup. So let's quickly jump in. And Steve, welcome to the show. And I'm really, really excited for this conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I am excited as well.
Steve, before even we begin our discussion, oh my goodness, I so much connect with what you are doing because once again, I'll admit, while I was working full time in the corporate setting and stuff, my average number or cups of coffee, it used to be like four or five, and that's something really really concerning. Luckily, fortunately, I've kind of left it, and I'm trying to restrict my um coffee or tea intake to maybe one cup in the entire day, and that is to a huge extent very liberating. So I'm also personally invested in trying to understand the science behind it. So with that, you say, Steve, that caffeine doesn't energize us, it actually exhausts us over time. So if you can break down, like, biologically, what's really happening in our bodies when we are consuming coffee?
Okay. Well, that's a great question. And you have a valiant effort there of quitting caffeine or trying to cut back, which is, I admire you for that because it's not easy, physically and mentally. But I'm going to start with probably the best way for everyone to understand what happens in our body is to tell you what happens when we wake up. So, as an example, when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I stand in my living room window and watch the sun. Sometimes the sun is coming up, sometimes it's been up, sometimes it's about to come up. But what that does is it naturally helps to raise your cortisol level. Now, cortisol is really important for you because what it does is it gives you energy throughout the day. And then throughout the day, the cortisol goes down and your melatonin and your adenosine goes up. And we're going to get to adenosine in a minute. And so what happens then is then I also drink water with lemon and apple cider vinegar and a detox, a heavy metal detox, and a little bit of stevia to get rid of the apple cider vinegar taste. This
Mhm.
is quite a bite. But what I'm doing is I'm hydrating my cells. So
Mhm.
because we dehydrate overnight as we sleep because we haven't drank any. So in society, oftentimes the first thing people do when they get out of bed is have a cup of coffee. Now, why is that? It is because these people are actually experiencing withdrawal symptoms because detox or withdrawal from caffeine happens anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. And so if you didn't have a cup of coffee, let's say you actually had one at 5 o'clock the night before, when you wake up in the morning and let's say it's 7 o'clock, well, you're 14 hours without caffeine. Your body is starting to say, I want caffeine because you're getting a headache, you're getting brain fog, you have no energy, you have fatigue.
Yes.
And so what happens when you drink the caffeine first thing in the morning, literally, when you first thing that happens is you spike your cortisol.
Hmm.
Now, realize we want this to happen naturally, but when you do it artificially, it then causes your circadian rhythm to be disrupted. And then other things that happen is that when you drink that caffeine first thing or anytime, it it pushes adrenaline into your system. Now
Yes.
realize this is a fight or flight situation. So your mind is saying we're being chased by a bear or a tiger or whatever the case may be, and you are sitting at your desk in your office and your mind's thinking you're in a fight or flight, and your body's sitting at your desk working. So there's a certain amount of confusion. There's also
Mhm.
dopamine released when you have that caffeine. And so I will not discount the impact of caffeine on your day. I should say that, or at least for a couple hours. Then what happens though, so you've got a nice rush, you got a for lack of a better word, you have got a nice buzz. You got dopamine, you got adrenaline, you got cortisol, all those happy things going on in your body artificially, and they're short term. And so after about 2 or 3 hours, possibly shorter, the effect of the caffeine wears off. Now, one of the other things that did when the caffeine went into your brain is it plugged something called adenosine receptors. Now, adenosine is what puts you to sleep naturally at night. And you have these receptors and you have little molecules. And then throughout the day, your adenosine picks up and you produce more adenosine. It goes into the receptors and then you get tired and you go to sleep at night. Well, caffeine molecule is very similar to the adenosine molecule. And so when that caffeine molecule goes up into your brain, it goes and it plugs up the adenosine receptor. And so you don't get tired. And so mentally, mentally, you don't get tired. Physically, it's, the adrenaline, that's a physical thing. But at some
Mhm.
point, it's going to wear off. And then if you chronically use caffeine, your brain actually creates more adenosine receptors. So now you have to drink more caffeine to plug the adenosine receptors because you're going to get some pretty good fatigue and brain fog mid afternoon. And so what are you going to do? You're going to have more caffeine because
Okay.
because then you plug the adenosine receptor and you don't get tired. Now that's a cycle. Now I wrote a book called Release the Coffee Cups, Winning the Battle with Caffeine. There's 16 chapters. 14 of the chapters are heavily referenced and cited. And I believe in every chapter, we refer in some manner this cycle of rinse and repeat. So what happens is you create an environment where when you start to lose your buzz, when you start to lose your high, and it literally is a high, because caffeine is a psychoactive substance. It's a drug.
Mhm.
You either try to fight through it, or you take a nap, or you drink more caffeine.
Okay.
And And so you can get into this, and it can be in coffee, it can be in tea, it can be in energy drinks, it can be in chocolate, it can be in prescription drugs or over the counter drugs. Caffeine is everywhere. And what happens is that you ultimately, if you want to keep awake, you have to keep drinking it. Well, then your adenosine doesn't pick up, your melatonin doesn't pick up. And guess what? You're going to go to bed and your mind is alert. Your body's exhausted because it's been in fight or flight all day. Because you realize your body thinks you're still running, trying to run from that bear, that tiger. And so you, you get into this cycle. And I rarely use caffeine. I used caffeine yesterday because I had a big road trip. I had to drive about 5 to 600 miles in one day. I went to a baseball game with my grandchildren. So I drove 200 to 300 miles on the way to the baseball game, 200 to 300 back. So I drank caffeine so that I would stay alert and that I would not fall asleep. Because after driving for 8 or 10 hours, sometimes you tend to nod off. Well,
Yeah.
I literally didn't go to sleep until 4 o'clock this morning. I went to bed at 10:20, laid there for hours and hours. I probably nodded off a little bit. Now realize I haven't had caffeine in weeks. And I just said to my wife this morning, I said, I got to stop doing this because I'm fairly exhausted. And, years ago, I quit caffeine cold turkey, which is a mistake. And my headache was so bad and my brain fog was so bad. And I called my daughter up, who is one of our coaches at Release the Coffee Cups, but she's also a natural health practitioner and a mindset coach. And I said, what can I do here? What can I do to get rid of this headache? Because it's brutal. Because what happens is that when the adenosine receptors open up, when you stop putting the caffeine molecules in there, the blood flows to your brain strongly, and it's a severe headache. Now, this is the general response. Okay. There are people that this doesn't happen to because there's exceptions to every rule. And with caffeine, there are people, one person can drink a cup of coffee and not have any effect, and the person next to him can drink that same cup and have a high and then have a severe uh, withdrawal, a couple hours later. So it all comes back to the circadian rhythm. And that is when we wake up in the morning, we need to naturally produce cortisol. We don't need adrenaline unless we're in a fight or flight situation. And you can't help it. If you drink caffeine, your adrenaline's going to get pumped up. And so is your dopamine. And I do an exercise in one of my presentations where I have people close their eyes at the beginning of the presentation. And we talk about a commercial. It's called Folders in Your Cup, waking up with folders in your cup. And it's a mom making coffee. And now realize I'm telling this to the audience, and their eyes are closed, and they're just imagining that coffee being brewed. She takes 2 cups into the bedroom. She hands one to her husband. They've got their 2 young sons there. They all are just happy. You get a warm fuzzy because everybody's happy. The boys come over by the parents. They have a group hug, and there's a couple things going on here. One is that whenever we teach our children that coffee is what gets us going in the morning, what do they think? They think that I need coffee or tea or something else to be an adult because that's what makes me successful. Now,
Yeah.
in the subconscious mind, from when you're born to when you're 7, you're in a theta state. So everything, that's where your subconscious is created in the first 7 years of your life. So if you regularly see mom and dad drinking coffee, and mom says, well, I can't start my day without it. Don't talk to me until I have my coffee. When you tell your subconscious this enough times, this is what's going to happen. Now, the good news is we can reprogram the subconscious, okay, through hypnotherapy, through guided meditation, through affirmations. And we do all that in our program, Release the Coffee Cups coaching program, which is on our website. And I also have the plan in the book, and the book will be published in about 4 to 6 weeks. It's written, it's being formatted now for the publishers.
That's really great.
And so why do we do this? 85% of the people in the United States drink caffeine. That's 2 to 300 million people. And I know it's that way across societies, across the country, or across the world.
Mhm.
So what do you think about this so far?
I mean, so much is happening internally. Um, I'll be very honest, Steve, it's actually scary because um it's kind of fighting the natural uh, reactions, natural responses given by our body, and I'm really curious to understand the long term implications here because either we are consuming drinking coffee or tea either to not to fall asleep and to focus, to concentrate better. When we study for long hours or we are working for long hours, a lot of mind and attention putting into something, it's very natural to have, caffeine or tea
Right.
because our mind is naturally saying, I need another cup of coffee. I'm falling asleep. I'm really feeling tired. So
Right.
it's kind of, we are forcing it upon our body and mind to uh, kind of break through that circadian rhythm. So that is, to me, it's actually very, very scary. It is an addiction. Um, and I want to understand the long term implication here, Steve. What's the long term implication of on
There's a
people?
there's a number of them.
Okay.
First of all, you get at some point your adrenal glands you're gonna have adrenal fatigue,
Mhm.
and they aren't gonna respond like they should. Okay, it's like the little boy crying wolf. You can only cry wolf so many times, and nobody pays attention. And your adrenal glands at some point are gonna say, he's not really in danger. I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm not gonna play. I'm not gonna play the game. And so at this point, you're maxed out on caffeine. You have this adrenal fatigue. Your circadian rhythm is messed up, possibly to the point where when you go to bed at night, you're completely alert. And when you wake up in the morning, you're fatigued, which is just the opposite. And so that would be perhaps one of the biggest things. Now, caffeine is also a diuretic, which means
Yeah.
that you have to go to the bathroom, right? Y-
Yes.
And so what happens is when you put caffeine in and you start to go to the bathroom, you're getting rid of many important minerals as well, especially calcium and magnesium. Now, for women, sometimes it's more important because as you get older, your bones, you're losing your calcium. Your bones are going to get brittle, osteoporosis, things like that. For men, it really messes with testosterone, it messes with blood pressure. And so chronic use leads to your body just starting to deteriorate. Now, one of the unique aspects of caffeine and cortisol is that if you have excess cortisol regularly, it
Mm-hmm.
actually it actually accumulates around your stomach like a
Yeah.
tire. Yeah. A fat. It's a tire of fat. Now maybe it's really small, maybe it's bigger, and it doesn't matter what you do, because you're not controlling this. The cortisol needs to go somewhere, and where does it do? It has chosen your belly. Okay. And that could be for men and women. Okay. But you could be really a health fitness person. But if you're drinking a lot of caffeine, what'll happen is that ultimately you could end up with that little inner tube around your belly. For women, long term, it messes with your menstrual cycle. It
Mm-hmm.
will increase cramps and pains. And it also has a big effect. Caffeine has a big effect on fertility. And this is, you always think maybe it's the woman, but it's the man as well. Okay. If a young couple or any age couple is trying to conceive, if they're both drinking caffeine, first of all, the man, his testosterone level goes down and his sperm, the motility and the mobility go down. and they're fragmented. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get pregnant. So remember, when I say this, there's no absolutes here. And then the woman, she has less blood flow to her ovaries, so the eggs. So you have a lower chance of conception. Now, once a woman gets pregnant, and if she still drinks caffeine, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. And really, one of my missions is to try to get people to realize this, is that by no means does caffeine cause all miscarriages and stillbirths, but it can lead to them. And there's studies that have documented it, that you have a bigger risk of having a miscarriage or a stillbirth or underweight baby if you're drinking caffeine during pregnancy. And one of the reasons is that the baby, the fetus, does not have the ability to filter and dispose of the caffeine as adult does, as the mom. So the baby often holds on to this. Now, here's a unique way to look at this. Okay, the woman has been drinking caffeine throughout her pregnancy. She has the baby, and she doesn't immediately breastfeed the baby. We realize that that baby is going through detox, withdrawal symptoms from the caffeine, because it's been on caffeine for 9 months, right?
Yep.
And so guess who gets a headache? The baby. So the baby's screaming bloody murder, and everybody thinks there's this and that, and there's all kinds of reasons why babies cry. How many people are thinking about caffeine withdrawal? And then also, if the mom does breastfeed, that the caffeine does go through to the baby through the breast milk, and so you've just now created an addict. And at some point, the baby's going to come off, and we'll have withdrawal symptoms. So, that's the very short version. I have a whole chapter on women. I have a whole chapter on men. I have a whole chapter on teens and adolescents. But at the end of the day, everybody that drinks caffeine every day doesn't really know what it's like to be healthy, because you're living in an artificial world created by an artificial stimulant, which is caffeine. And I have created the first chapter of the book is called Anecdotal Stories. And I was going to make it the last chapter. And I realized after I started to read them that this was crucial for people to understand that they weren't alone, that their symptoms were compatible or comparable to other people. And one of them stands out, is about 99% of the people that have testimonials, 99% say that their sleep is so unbelievably good after they've quit caffeine. And they sleep like a baby. They sleep like they can't remember in their memory that they've slept this good. And why is this important? Because when you sleep well, you heal. Your body's healing. For men, it's creating testosterone. Okay, while you sleep with a chemical called DHEA, and your whole body is healing, and you reach that deep stage 4 REM sleep, and so you dream, and your dreaming is subconscious. Your dreams are coming from your subconscious, but you could dream all night or most of the night. Many times we don't reach that stage, you don't have any dreams because you're never really reaching that stage 4 REM sleep. So that is a very short version of the things that can happen. I believe that the biggest, most positive aspect of quitting or really cutting back on caffeine is getting better sleep, because your health is going to improve dramatically if you sleep well at night.
Totally true. Totally true. I can personally tell you, Steve, that when I have uninterrupted sleep of 7 or 8 hours, oh boy, it's a different feeling. It's a
It is.
such body is healing. You are feeling fresh. You are feeling energetic. You are feeling happy. It's a blessing actually, especially in
Yeah.
today's.
One of the guys that quit, and he's a fitness influencer. He's got hundreds of thousands of followers, and he did this testimonial. He quit. Caffeine was destroying his life, professional and personal. And after 6 months, He said, I now get up in the morning and naturally I feel like I just had a 2 or 3 shot espresso. It's simply because of how well he slept. And he has got energy like he can't believe. He has energy and it's healthy energy and it's natural energy. So, and that's a common theme across all the testimonials and across anybody that I've talked to that's actually quit caffeine for good. You know, again, I used it yesterday to drive. I use it occasionally to drive. I sometimes drive 24 hours, not all at once, but in two stages. And I use caffeine and I pay for it because I don't sleep well at night. But I don't only use it max for 2 days in a row, and then I don't have any withdrawal because I haven't had actually I'm not addicted. Okay, my body is not accustomed to this.
Wow, that's really a very detailed and very logical explanation about it. And how some people will say that I function fine on caffeine. I am alert. I sleep okay. I'm healthy. So it doesn't matter to me. So how do you respond to people who insist caffeine isn't a problem for them?
We all have free will and free won't. There's a key words there. And I can't make them do anything. So if they're going to drink caffeine, they're going to drink caffeine. My role is to influence and provide knowledge for people that possibly are having health issues. Okay. If you're not sleeping, if you're drinking caffeine and you wake up every morning and you feel great, but you don't because you have to have caffeine to start your day. Okay. So it's a catch 22. That's that cycle. And so one of the things that and it's a trap that I will not fall in. I think I fell for it once or twice. I'm not going to ever argue with anybody about them drinking caffeine. And I've done presentations where a lady was literally had her hands clasped in front of her and she looked at me and she said, "You will never take my coffee away from me." And I looked at her and I said, "I have no intention of doing this. I can't. I can't do it. I can't make you stop. You have to want to." It's like with every other addiction, every other self-sabotage thing that you do to yourself, you have to want to do it. And so if you do it, you're going to feel better, almost guaranteed, almost 100% guaranteed. There are people that will quit caffeine 30 days later, they haven't seen any effects, so they just go back on. That's them. That's their body or their mind response to caffeine. Again, we're all unique. We're all individuals, and caffeine affects each one of us differently. But in the long run, it's an artificial stimulant, and there is no health benefits known documented to drinking caffeine. And what happens is when they take the caffeine out of regular coffee, they sell it to the soda companies and they sell it to the energy drink companies, and they add it into their products. And why do they do that? To get you addicted because there's no benefit. There's no health benefit to drinking caffeine. It doesn't taste good. It's bitter. If you can taste it at all, it's bitter. And so why put it in there? Because it's $1 trillion business and money talks. And again, my role is to provide knowledge and influence. And hopefully people will say to themselves, I might want to look at this a little bit deeper.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, exactly. I mean, you cannot, changes cannot be done overnight, but at least what we can do is, I mean, the least we can do is make informed choices. Um, so I absolutely resonate with that, and I hope the same for our listeners. So Steve, before we wrap up this insightful conversation, um, for listeners who aren't ready to go fully caffeine free, what's one small step they can do to, let's say if they would like to start today to feel less dependent on it?
I would say first thing is try not to drink any caffeine after 12 noon. Uh, it'll help you go to sleep at night. You still probably won't reach the stage 4 or REM sleep because your circadian rhythm is messed up. As long as you're on caffeine, again, these are general observations. There's always exceptions. You can start drinking half caffeine and half decaf coffee, which cuts down your, I drink decaf coffee. Okay. Now I don't drink regular decaf coffee. I drink Swiss water processed organic coffee decaf, which takes out 99.9% of the caffeine. Regular decaf has 10 to 15% yet caffeine in it. So you are getting caffeine if you drink decaf. So if you drink 5 cups of decaf a day, you've had 1 or 2 cups of coffee. And so it really didn't matter. But I think, there's different ways to approach it. There's cold turkey. There is the withdrawal, different things. We talk about this in our program. I talk about it in the book. It's a personal choice to make to make yourself be healthy. And we all control our own destiny. Nobody else does. We are responsible for our bodies. And think about what I had to say. Whether you're a man or a woman or a teenager, teenagers are very susceptible to the social media and society pressures to drink caffeine, to drink energy drinks. Stop. Just stop and look at what it's happening to you. You can reach me at releasethecoffeecups.com and you can contact me through there. And there's a lot of information there that'll help you to talk. And, like you said, for somebody that's thinking about it, go and look at the website and just think and absorb some of the information there and then go from there. And you can always talk to me. You can contact me through there. I will respond to you. We're on social media all over the place: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. We do regular reels almost daily about different aspects of caffeine. Again, knowledge is power. And if I can educate people, we have my wife has a saying. It's called, her name's Brenda, and it's a Brendaism, and is that you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. However, you can make it thirsty. And so my role here is to your listeners: look for more knowledge, look for more information. And if you have high blood pressure, is it the caffeine? If you're having severe menstrual cramps, is it the caffeine? Are you having a hard time conceiving? Could it be the caffeine? Again, there's no 100% blanket statement. However, it can be a contributing factor, especially if you're drinking over 200 or 300 milligrams a day. And that doesn't take much in the cups today. I mean, a 12-ounce Starbucks, I think, is 120 milligrams of caffeine, give or take. Well, you're well into messing up your circadian rhythm. If you have one more cup, you're now an addict. You're now addicted to it. And I can tell you one way to know if you're addicted is to quit for a week and see how you feel. Because if you get the headaches and if you get the fatigue, because when you quit caffeine, your adenosine receptors open up. What is in the natural state? When your adenosine receptors open up, you get tired because it puts you to sleep at night. What happens when they wake up in the middle of the day? When they open up, guess what? You need to take a nap. And you'll find, again, in the testimonials.
So I'll make sure to mention the details in the show notes. And Steve, I highly appreciate for bringing such clarity.
It's my pleasure. And thank you so much for having me on. And I would encourage everyone to just get more information, whether it's from me or from anywhere. There's all kinds of resources. So thank you very much. It has been my pleasure to be here. And we're out.
Yeah, Steve. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. It's a wrap.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you so much, Steve, for bringing nuance and insights to this conversation. And it's definitely it's not anti-coffee, but it's pro-awareness, pro-health, and of course pro-choice. So thank you.
Exactly. Thank you. And then could you send me the link whenever it comes out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to all the listeners out there, if this conversation has sparked curiosity about your own relationship with coffee, with caffeine, definitely check out Steve's book, Release the Coffee Cuffs, and his coaching program. And also, thank you so much for tuning into the Mindful Living podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend or a loved one who might need a little caffeine clarity today. Until next time, this is Sana, and this is the Mindful Living. Thank you.
Thank you.